Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Chris Voss.
All right, I just want to warn you guys in advance, because if you've read the book or not, you may be familiar with the hostage negotiator's late night FM DJ voice. And ask yourself, is the whole presentation going to sound like that? So I just want you to know, even though I start out slow, I kind of taper off after that. Arch, as a negotiator, one of the rules that we live by is never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. Interesting, all right? Yeah. But how do you make that happen? And it's hostage negotiation is just emotional intelligence. You know, it's empathy, if you will, weaponized empathy. That's hostage negotiation. And neuroscience. And part of emotional intelligence is what's appropriate to the moment. I don't tell that joke in the middle of that CNN appearance. Jeffrey Toobin doesn't give my company the best commercial we ever got. The Black Swan Group, that is the baddest ass name I ever heard. How many times you guys figure I played that video, right? But in the moment, appropriate to the moment. Because some people learn that humor is effective. And I don't think everybody understands really how effective humor is. To be in a good mood, to be in a positive frame of mind makes you up to 31% smarter. No joke. Your brain has, that's almost a pun, right? No joke. Your brain has more capability when you're in a positive frame of mind. 31%, that's no small jump. How am I going to use that as a hostage negotiator? Am I going to call inside the bank and say, hey, I just flew in from Iowa, boy, my arm's tired. Or, you know, call in the bank and say, hey, how many bank robbers does it take screwing a light bulb? You know, I'm not going to start out with jokes because it wouldn't be appropriate to the moment, but appropriate to the moment. And I will tell you, I'm sitting there at CNN in the booth off to the side, and I'm hearing hostage this, hostage that, hostage this, and I'm thinking like, this is a straight line. I'm just going to have to absolutely hit this. Now, had Jeffrey Toobin thought about that before I came on and turned to Anderson Cooper or Christiane Amanpour, somebody else that was sitting there, and he said, you know, Black Swan, it's kind of badass. You know, when he comes on, I'm going to ask him about that. Can you imagine what they would have said? The producer would have gotten in his ear and said, no, we're not telling jokes here. The C in CNN does not stand for comedy. You're not telling a joke. But appropriate to the moment, appropriate to the context, it helps everybody. It loosens the moment, and it makes you smarter. Here's an automatic way to make yourself smarter. Those of you in the room right now that are frowning, you're making yourself dumber. Some of you are looking at your colleagues and said, see, I told you. No, but seriously, the interesting thing about, and what I love about hostage negotiation is backed up by neuroscience now, and these different things are completely backed up by neuroscience. Because I can reach into your brain, I can flick a switch. You can't stop me. You have things called mirror neurons. I've been reaching into your brain since I took the stage. I reached into your brain just now. How do you like that? I'm inside there. Hostage negotiators use what we call the late night FM DJ voice. We didn't know why it worked. We just know it worked. You have something in your brain called mirror neurons. When you hear my voice, I begin to change how your brain functions before I finish the sentence. We just knew that the late night FM DJ voice seemed to calm people down. I hit mirror neurons in your head. The mirror neurons react. It's an involuntary response. There's a bunch of involuntary responses in there. They're all tied into the limbic system, mirror neurons, some other things like that. I can actually turn your brain down. We do a negotiation exercise, very intense negotiation exercise when we do training on business negotiation. My son likes to say, my son's my director of operations, we want to put so much pressure on you, it's going to make your nose bleed. But then while we're in the middle of doing that, I'll hit you with a late night FM DJ voice and just watch people's voices turn down. When I'm in a business negotiation and I'm going to lay out a term that there's no movement on, none. It's typically a contract term. we've always got people giving us contracts that have work for hire clauses in them, and we don't do work for hire, period. Period. Because that gives away our intellectual property. Those of you that are intellectual property attorneys know how valuable that is, and we're not going to give it away. So how do I get, and I was talking to one of you guys earlier here, and he says, well, you don't get what you want unless you ask for it. We don't ask for the stuff we want. And we get it. How does that work? Well, if I ask you for something and you give it to me, I owe you. Robert Cialdini, one of the 6 principles of influence that are universal. Reciprocity is a human nature response. So I'm going to get stuff for you, but I don't want to owe you for it. Because that's how we did hostage negotiation. How am I going to do a hostage negotiation with a bank robber and owe him? That's not going to work out. Or with a kidnapper and owe him. It's not going to work out for me. I want my stuff. I don't want to owe anything. We get into a discussion over contract terms, and there's a work for hire clause in there. I just say we don't do work for hire. And then I shut up. 2/3 of you shutting up is a struggle. 2/3 of you, and it's not just because you're attorneys, it's because you're human beings. Shutting up is a struggle for a variety of reasons. I was once on the trying to coach an attorney, happened to be female, didn't matter that she was female, but she was one that had taught that if you're not talking, you're out of control. So she had to talk all the time. And I literally said to her to try to get her to slow down. And again, it didn't matter that it was a woman. The person in this one happens to be a woman. She's a human being. And I said, did it ever occur to you to not talk? And it was the only time she stopped talking. And there's a reason why that worked, which we'll get into shortly, which also is contrary to the way you're wired. There's a few things about your wiring that I'm going to try to enlighten you guys to and maybe get you out of doing, and it's going to be hard. It's not going to be complicated. I'm going to give you an idea right now how hard it's going to be for you. Everybody make a fist with both hands. Fist with both hands. You have to put down your stuff to do this, but it's important for you to experience this. This is an experiential talk. We're going to experience stuff together. Put your right thumb up. Put your left forefinger out. Just the forefinger. There you go. Now switch. Switch back. Switch again. Speed it up. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Make it work. Some of you are going like, ah. All right, so here's some cool stuff about that real quick, which you should get a kick out of. First of all, did you need to be Elon Musk to understand what I was asking you? No, it wasn't complicated. But it went against how your synapses in your head are wired right now. It was awkward. Awkward is simultaneously the barrier to learning and necessary for accelerated learning. If you don't feel awkward, you're learning at a snail's pace. Awkward is accelerated learning. And that feeling, even some of you had trouble getting your left forefinger out to begin with. But there was actually a feeling in your head. That was actually the feeling of creating a new neurosynaptic connection in your head. It was kind of a cool idea. And then switching back and forth, you're trying to fire that synapse. Now you've got some synapses that are built, you want to go to your default wiring. And it's going to be hard getting out of that initially. A couple of things that I'm going to share with you, it's going to be hard getting out of it. And it'll feel that awkward. As a side note, these days, since we're so much into emotional intelligence, hostage negotiation, which gets us into brain science, which is some cool stuff. Like I'm really into how do I create new neurosynaptic connections because it's necessary for my health long term, my mental health. I personally, I've got something called Project 120. I want to live to be 120 years old. So I got to constantly be building my brain. So I'm doing wacky stuff that's good for my mind. Like here's another one that I like to do to build my mental health. Brush your teeth with your opposite hand. I'm willing to admit the first time I tried this, I had to move my head back and forth because it couldn't make it work. But then, what's the point of the new neural synaptic connections? Really awkward at first. How many times before you can do this quickly? Or any other habit? How long does it take you to build a new habit? Some of you guys know, right? How long? How long to adopt a new habit? About 3 weeks, right? Interestingly, corresponds with about 63 to 64 repetitions of engaging in a skill, but doing it right, which is why you got to do it slow at the very beginning. You got to take your time. John Foley, Blue Angel pilot, I heard him give a talk about 2 years ago, talked about how they wire a new groove into their head, a new habit in their head, because if they haven't wired the habit in their head when they go up in the sky, Blue Angel pilots crash into each other and people die. He said about 63 to 64 repetitions. That's why if you do it a few times each day, it takes about 3 weeks to pick up a skill. So I'm gonna lay some stuff on you today, but you gotta try it after you get out of here. You've got to put in the reps. It's not that long, but the first few times you do it, it's gonna hurt your head. And you know what? That's when you'll quit. Not knowing how close the goal is on the other side. Awkwardness is both a barrier to learning and necessary for accelerated learning. What did Chris Voss do? Chris Voss was the FBI's lead international kidnapping negotiator. There are two kinds of negotiations, hostage negotiations. There are one where we got the bank surrounded and the bad guys are inside and they can't get away, and I did a bunch of those. And then there are kidnapping negotiations, which is really a commodities exchange. First time I went to learn the magic skills, the magic kidnapping negotiator skills, the guy taught me, stood in front of the room, and he said, all right, you'll find any country you go into, kidnappers, there's going to be an expected initial demand, roughly, ballpark. They're going to expect to settle at a percentage of that, and they're also going to expect that the kidnapping is going to take a certain duration. What does that sound like? Sounds like a market, doesn't it? I remember the first time I heard that, I thought, you're outlining a market to me. You're outlining a business transaction. And I remember initially being horrified. The market was human beings. Then I had to learn it doesn't matter what it is for me, it matters what it is for them. What it is for them is it's a business. And they have a division of labor. How many of you guys saw the movie Man on Fire with Denzel Washington? Right? Who did he negotiate with in that movie? The Voice. The Voice's job was to negotiate. That was his end of the deal. Kidnappers have a division of labor. The commodity is human beings. They have people that acquire the commodity. They have people that transport the commodity. They have people that house the commodity. They have people that negotiate for the commodity's release. And they got a boss that complains about everybody that works for them. Sound like a business, right? So I get a call because there's been a kidnapping in Haiti. 12-year-old boy's been grabbed in Haiti. 12-year-old boy's an American citizen. It's not that uncommon. Haiti, at the time before the earthquake, is a revolving door of kidnappings. When they grab Americans, they don't realize they're grabbing Americans, they're grabbing dual nationals. They think they're getting locals. How does that happen? In many of the industries, kidnapping industries in the world, kidnapping markets in the world, when they're grabbing Americans, they're usually grabbing dual nationals. They don't know they're grabbing Americans. How does that happen? How'd you get your citizenship? You an American citizen? How'd you get it? Born here. That's how I got my citizenship. I grew up in Iowa. I know my voice doesn't sound like it, but I grew up in Iowa. So I thought, born here, it's just a natural order of things. Vast majority of the people in this room, that's how you got your citizenship. Do you have any idea how unusual that is in the world? You know how many developed nations think that's a natural right? It's argued that there are two, the US and Canada. You're born in Australia. You think that gives you Australian citizenship? They'd think that was funny. You're born in England. You think that gives you English citizenship? Again, laughable concept. It's one of the reasons why I'm an unabashed fan of the United States, a complete patriot. I don't consider myself a member of either political party. I talk about issues based on what I think of the issues, not on which party is behind them. But I'm an absolute patriot of the United States because I think that's the way things should be. I love that about this country. You're born here, you're an American citizen. As it turns out, it happens to be an idea, mostly the Americas. North and South America, the vast majority of the countries in North and South America believe if you're born there and entitles you to citizenship. It's called Jus Soli, I think is the pronunciation. Those of you that speak Latin can say it better than me, which means right of the soil. That's cool. What does that have to do with Haiti? Haitian moms know that the very best gift they could give their child on a child's literal first birthday is a gift of American citizenship. I mean, how powerful, how much that gives you an advantage over the rest of the world, just being born an American. So one way or another, they're finding their way into U.S. soil so the child can be born an American citizen. That's the case in this instance. 12-year-old boy's citizen, the family is not. Kid gets grabbed in a carjacking. Now, the business model in Haiti at the time, carjacking, I got to tell you, I'm impressed with this business model. This is a great business model. You want to talk about business models? If you're in a commodities business, carjack a car with more than one person in it. You don't need to do video marketing at that point in time. You let one of those people go. You've already handled your marketing. That's a live in-person marketing event for you. They run back and say, hey, guess who we're in business with? If they were riding in a car together, they probably could go tell that person's family they got kidnapped, right? It gets even better from that point forward. You've pre-qualified your client. If they have money for a car and gas in Haiti at the time, they got money for a ransom. Haiti's a poor country. They got a car and they're driving around in it. They got ransom money. Now here's the best part. Here's the part I absolutely love. What happens if you grab the one person in the family that nobody likes? You still got a car. Every one of your clients, what if you got their car to hold on to when you did business? You get paid every time, right? Yeah, this works pretty good. So that's why they're doing them in carjackings. Boy gets kidnapped. Father's not an American citizen. He knows his son is. He goes to the U.S. Embassy, says, my son's an American citizen. He's been kidnapped. You're supposed to help me. They say, the FBI is going to be there to help you. Now, I don't know what went through his mind when he was told that the FBI was going to be there to help him. I can imagine it was probably something equivalent of 15 minutes later, he's going to hear on the front door, and these guys will be there. They might even have FBI hats on, so he'd know they're FBI agents. But instead, about 15 minutes later, he gets a call from some guy in Washington, D.C. named Chris Voss. And he literally says to me on the phone, you're in Washington, D.C., how you going to help me? How much time do I have before this father hangs up the phone? You're me. What do you say? Seriously, what would you say? Gonna get your son back. Logic. Lay some reality out to him. Tell me what happened. Interesting. Who thinks tell me what happened is an open-ended question? It's a command. And it's a statement. Tell me what happened. When you run into people in your businesses, what's the first thing they say to themselves, especially if they're under stress? Is it any different than what this father said to me? Do you have any less time? And what you need to establish, you know how much time you have? Does anybody know? How much time do you have before they either literally or figuratively hang up on you? Before you're losing the game? How much time do you have? 7. You got 7 seconds. Tick, tick, tick. Tell me what happened. How much time does that take? Person under stress. Can they go, okay, I'm really glad you asked. You know, now that you think about it, let me go back through this. Think about it one step at a time. How did I get in? It all started when I was 7 years old. I can't answer that question. I mean, who can under stress? 7 seconds. And what do you have to establish? What you have to establish is the same thing I had to establish. What is it? Trust. Absolutely. Trust and competence. Exactly right. You get two things, trust and competence. Not confidence, competence. And you get 7 seconds. What do you say? Trust me, I'm confident. If that worked, would you need videos to market your practice? Probably not. Trust me, I'm from the FBI and I'm here to help you. How do I know how to do this? Because I did it wrong in the past. The first time I was in the Philippines on a case, and I'm going to touch on it before we get done here this morning, they walked me into a room that the heads of the government are all there from the Philippines. I'm there at the express personal invitation of the American ambassador. The head of the FBI in Manila has gone to the ambassador and given him my name and said, we need this guy, and we have to officially invite him to come and help, and we need to walk him into this room where everybody except the president of the Philippines is going to be. The Secretary of Defense is going to be there. The head of the police is going to be there. Police in the Philippines is the National Police Force, so the head of the police is the equivalent of a cabinet-level position. And at the time, the president's 2 closest personal advisors were the Secretary of Defense and the head of the police. The only reason the president of the Philippines wasn't in the room is because then his personal confidential advisor was. And in sum and substance, they said to me, how are you going to help us? And I took this as the opportunity to lay out my resume. FBI agent, so many years. Joint Terrorist Task Force, New York City, winner of the Attorney General's Award, winner of the FBI Agents Association Award for distinguished and exemplary service. Not only teach from the book at Quantico now, I wrote the book we teach from. Not only trained by the FBI, but trained by Scotland Yard as well. Laid out my extensive credentials, and I could tell you they were suitably unimpressed. They may as well have yawned in my face. Why is that? You guys know why. If your credentials showed that you knew what you were doing, you would never hire the wrong person in your firm, and you would never fail, would you? Your credentials correlate loosely with whether or not you know what you're doing. Loosely. What I say to this father? Simple. Here's what I said. All right, Haitian kidnappers are not killing kidnap victims these days. I realize that's really stupid because they kill each other at the drop of a hat, but they're not killing kidnap victims. Now, today is Thursday, and Haitian kidnappers love to party on Saturday night. If you do say the things I want you to say, when I want you to say them, we're going to have your son out late Friday or early Saturday morning. He said, tell me what you want me to do. And we had his son out Saturday morning. So let's break down a little bit of what I did do, and also, more importantly, what I didn't do. By the way, through the course of the kidnapping, the father never asked me how many kidnappings I'd worked. He never asked me how long I'd been an FBI agent. He never asked me how long I'd been a hostage negotiator. He never asked me if I spoke French or Creole, the languages. He never asked me how many times I'd been to Haiti. You guys may have asked yourself, this guy's a lead international kidnapping negotiator, and he's negotiated all over the world. How many languages does this guy speak? By now, the answer to that is abundantly clear, barely one. How many times I've been to Haiti? You guys know how many times I've been to Haiti? No, I've never been to Haiti. Never asked me that. None of those typical competence indicators ever came up. As soon as I told him what he was looking at, here's what you're looking at. And then I offered him the slightest bit of insight into how to navigate that. And he said, tell me what you want me to do. I will also ask you to compare how long it took me to say that with how long it took me to lay out my resume. Which was shorter? Most communication hacks, most ways to shortcut the actual process and make it last less time seem really indirect and save time. It seems like you're going in another direction and it ends up shortcutting the process significantly. Here's also what I didn't do. And here's where I'm going to ask you to change your wiring because you got an addiction. I'm here to talk to you about your addiction. You didn't know it was going to be one of those meetings, right? You're thinking, I went to that one last week. So the guy stands up and he says, hi, I'm Chris. And you all go, hi, Chris. Here's what you're addicted to. You love this word. You love this word. Feels so good to hear yes. Woo-hoo. You love hearing yes. You know, there's a story that John Lennon, when he first started falling in love with Yoko Ono, he went to an art exhibit that she put together, and it was kind of this obstacle course thing, and you climbed over stuff, and you crawled under stuff. You came to this rickety ladder. You climbed up this rickety ladder, and the top of the ladder was a telescope, and you looked through the telescope, and in tiny letters on a far wall was the word yes. But here's the problem. It's always a hook, right? Now, you guys get addicted to this, and there's actually a study out there that says you should do it. Because it says all you got to do to get to yes, which even to this day has sold more copies than my book. First, you ask somebody to say yes to something little. Then you get them to say yes to something else little. Then you get the third little one, and then bang, you got them. Right? It's called momentum selling. It's called the yes momentum. Many of you, if you've been to trial, you've been taught never ask a witness a question you don't know the answer to in advance, which means you're going to close down the question, you're going to make it a yes or no, and more than likely it's going to be a yes. So you're willing to admit that you are on a planet Earth because you're going to lead them down a path. They know you're leading them down a path. In sales, it's called the yes momentum or momentum selling. And it says, get them to say yes to the little things and you tie them down. They can't get away. Do you like that? It's a violation of your basic nature to autonomy, your right to autonomy. If you pick up the phone rings, you pick up the phone, and a voice on the other end of the phone says, have you got a few minutes to talk? What's your gut reaction? Your gut reaction, a lot of quick automatic no's. But wait a minute. I'm just trying to get you to say yes to something little. What's the matter with that? Well, the problem is whenever you say yes, you don't know what you're letting yourself in for. And have you got a few minutes to talk? It's pretty simple. You ask yourself, if I have a few minutes to talk, do I want to talk to you? If I have a few minutes to talk and I want to talk to you, do I want to talk about what you want to talk about? There isn't a man or woman alive that hasn't gotten a call from their significant other, and he or she on the other end of the phone says, can we talk? And you think to yourself, well, I like talking to you, but I don't think I want to talk about what you want to talk about. Then after that is how long is a few minutes? My next younger sister calls me on the phone when she's got an hour drive in front of her. Have you got a few minutes to talk? That's also code for I'm going to talk and you're going to listen. Another friend of mine, colleague, happens to be an attorney, but that just happens to be how he's wired. He lays out this entire agenda. He's going to have you on the phone for at least 45 minutes, and he says, have you got a few minutes to talk? Typically, a few minutes is 45 to an hour. And then the last question you ask yourself at the end of it, how do I get off the phone? So the first problem is you guys got to stop this. You got to get out of this yes stuff. I'm here to tell you that every time you try to get somebody to say yes, it makes them concerned. And they get defensive, and they get their back up, and they start to worry about what they're letting themselves in for. Experiment with it. Don't take my word for it. Look around you. A couple of years ago, before my son, who's now my director of operations and our best negotiator, while he was still trying to grasp this, we come out of a training. The security guard that let us in to the secure building, the same guy that let us in the morning, is there waiting when we come out. He's got on a uniform that says he works for Allied Security. And at the time, my son was saying, like, I don't think people are always nervous about saying yes. So we're standing in front of the security guard. He's at work. He's seen us before. He's got his Allied Security uniform on. And I look at him and I go, do you work for Allied Security? And he goes, what makes you ask? I just look at my son and I go, what do you want from me? You'd be shocked. Doesn't matter what it is. Is today Friday? Somebody asks you that. You know they're going someplace with that. And you're going to be reluctant. There may have been a point in time, and actually there's an academic study that refers to this as mere agreement, and they say it works. When you look at any study, make sure you look at how they gathered the data and decide for yourself whether or not they thought it was legitimate data. Because I've seen a lot of studies, and I have no doubt there's one out there that says playing basketball makes you tall. People will misinterpret the data. This doesn't work. Ask yourself how much you like it. So some of you should be thinking like, all right, now what am I supposed to do? You guys know who this is? Jack Welch, right? Jack Welch was at a book signing in Los Angeles a couple of years ago. I'm going to the book signing. I'm going to ask Jack to come speak at the negotiation course I teach at USC. I'm going to stand in line with 300 people. Everybody, how many of the people in that line, when they get up to Jack Welch, you think they're going to try to ask Jack Welch to do something? Pretty much all of them, right? How many people that day try to get Jack Welch to say yes to something? How jumpy are they when I come up and I get within arm's length of Jack Welch? Am I going to stand there and talk to him for 20 minutes? They got 300 people in line behind me. Do they know who I am? Have they got my ID? Have they put me through a metal detector? Do they know whether or not I'm carrying a gun? As it turns out, I am carrying a gun. They don't know that. I get this close to Jack Welch, I could do whatever I want to him. I can hurt him if I want. They can't stop me. No shortage of reasons why people are jumping. You're me, what do you say? You want to come talk to my class? Trying to get them to say yes to something, right? Yes is a trap. I told you yes is a trap. Which you haven't been willing to experiment with and see yet, but you will if you look for it at all. Here's what I said to Jack Welch. And this part of the hack is just insanely stupid. I said, is it a ridiculous idea for you to come and speak at the negotiation course I teach at USC? Notice which word I'm looking for. He looks at me, and then he looks up and to the left, and he gets this intense scowl on his face, just really intense scowl, and he freezes, and he doesn't move. And I think to myself, I just killed Jack Welch. Because this dude's old, right? And he's so furious, he just had a stroke, and he's going to fall over dead right in front of me. So when he doesn't die initially, I'm relieved, but he still doesn't unfreeze. Now I'm thinking, he looks furious. I think he's going to start yelling, security! Instead, he looks at me and he says, this is my personal assistant's name. This is a special Twitter account we have set up to communicate with her. I will call her and tell her who you are and what you're after. I think we're going to be in Los Angeles in the fall. If we're in Los Angeles in the fall, we'll come and speak to your class. How many answers was that? How many questions would you have normally had to ask to get that many answers? Who should I speak to? How do I get a hold of them? Will you call them and let them know that I'm going to be calling? Will they know who I am? What's your schedule look like? Give that some thought. On a consistent and regular basis, as nervous as people are about saying yes, they feel so comfortable saying no, which you will be shocked at what people are willing to say no to comfortably, that they will then lay out 5 more answers. A calibrated no is worth at least 5 yeses. You guys think you like yes? What if you could get 5 to 7 yeses all in a row based on one question? We see this regularly. When it's important, I do not bother with the word yes. I have no use for the word. I get 5 times farther triggering no. Regularly. Any one of your yes questions can be switched to, are you against? Do you disagree? Have you given up on? Is it a ridiculous idea? Is it a bad idea? Drop that in the front of your yes questions. You'd be shocked at how much farther you get. Instantly. Most of the people that we train don't even bother with the word yes anymore. It's a useless word. Yes, first of all, yes is nothing without how anyway, because there's 3 kinds of yeses: commitment, confirmation, and counterfeit. And since that yes momentum nonsense has been used on us so much, people get real good at giving the counterfeit yes. Because you've heard it before and thought you had a deal and had it fall apart, haven't you? It's happened to everybody. Don't bother with the word. Now, what happens if triggering no is not enough? Here's where you want to be. This is a response you want to get out of people. Not "you're right," because "you're right" is what they say when you're making your case. And you know when they say "you're right" to you when you're making your case, what do they want? They want you to shut up. If we joke around about this inside my company, we say "you're right" is code for shut the fuck up. But people say it in order to preserve the relationship, but it gets you to shut up. As a matter of fact, you do it all the time. You got a colleague who won't leave you alone. You want him to shut up and go away. You look him in the eye and go, "You're right," and they leave. And you go back to what you were doing. They come storming back in the next day. "I thought I agreed. We talked about blah, blah." And you look at them again and go, "You're right," and they leave again. I know that every person in this room did this at least once this week. But "that's right" is the difference. Now the question becomes, does it work on sociopaths? So as a kidnapping negotiator, I'm working kidnappings all over the world, Americans doing stupid things, and this is an American that did something stupid in the Philippines, and this is a sociopath that's got him. And this is a negotiator that I'm coaching. And we go round and round for months, and finally, and make no mistake, this guy in a bandana is a murdering, raping, killing, sociopathic murdering machine. Does empathy work on sociopaths? This guy's a sociopath. This is a poster child for sociopaths. We're several months into this, and we're going to lay a heavy-duty dose of empathy on this guy, which is say everything they're thinking, saying, and expressed from their point of view until they say that's right. $10 million ransom demand for the American on the table. But $10 million for war damages, for 500 years of oppression from the Spanish to the Japanese to the Americans. Now, immediately, all of you are tuning out because you're saying to yourself, "I've never been in an argument where the person on the other side was bringing up stuff from the past that didn't matter anymore." That doesn't happen. 500 years of oppression. After about 4 months of back and forth, I put my guy on the phone, get a "that's right" out of him. Lay it all out. You're not asking for ransom for the American. You're asking for war damages, for economic harm to the south of the Philippines, for 500 years of oppression, from the Spanish to the Japanese to the Americans, the injustice of it all. You're not Filipinos anyway. You're a separate, moral, independent homeland. It's being oppressed by a current regime in Manila. It's held up by the latest colonial invaders, who are the Americans. Lay it on thick. And my guy talked to the terrorist and laid it on thick. And there was a moment of silence, and the terrorist said, "That's right." And the ransom demand went away. We went from $10 million to zero in that moment. It went away. The sociopath let it all go. The case took a couple twists and turns. About 4 months later, on Maundy Thursday, the Thursday before Easter, the night Jesus prayed in Gethsemane, the American walked away. Walked away. He's walking down a dirt road. Local farmer sees him, says, "You must be the American who's been kidnapped." He says, "I am." They alert the Philippine military. The military comes down, picks him up, flies him to Manila. They hold a big press conference. The military says, "In a daring rescue operation, we have rescued the American." He said, "Daring." They gave him a ride. We got him out of the country. I'm back in Manila about 3 weeks later. I connect back up with my guy. He says, "You're not going to believe who called me." I don't know who called you. The terrorist, sociopath, the killer, the killing machine called him and said, "Have you been promoted yet?" I don't know what it was he said to me on the phone. "You're really good. They should promote you." Hangs up the phone. What's he saying in that moment? And think the context. In this negotiation, the sociopath got nothing. And he called his counterpart to say, "I felt respected by you. I'd talk to you again. We're okay." Which is the way that everybody you interact with should feel when they get done with the interaction, regardless of how the outcome goes. They should feel so respected and so heard that they can get nothing and say to you, "We're okay. I'd deal with you again." All right, real quickly. We got a free, only if you want more. Only if you want more, because I think everybody's getting a copy of the book. We've got a weekly newsletter. We put it out. It's free. I had a federal colleague that his favorite phrase was, "If it's free, I'll take 3." So only if you want more. This is a free newsletter. Comes out every Tuesday, short, sweet articles. It's not one of those newsletters that has 50 choices, where you, after you decide what you want to read, you got to go take a nap because it's so exhausting. Short, sweet, concise. Send a text, FBI empathy, all one word. Don't let your spell check make it 2 words. Send that message, FBI empathy, all one word, to the number 22828. 22828. It'll also let you know about different training that we have coming up. We've got some stuff coming up in LA next week, as a matter of fact. But we've got a lot of free stuff too. I mean, we got a lot of stuff. We do a lot to try to help you get better. A lot. There's a lot out there that there's no charge for. Avail yourself of the stuff that's free first. When you approach people with an approach of respect and understanding, you'll make mistakes. I made a mistake here. They didn't ban me from CNN. You'll make mistakes when you take this kind of approach with people that you interact with, trying to get it right. The important part is trying to get it right. You don't have to get it right. Here's the kind of difference it can make in your life. Gentleman who's read the book in Florida, applying it in real estate, ridiculously successful, said, "You gave me my son back." Had serious problems with his son. Used it to reestablish a relationship with a 16-year-old boy. Another colleague who's got a great feel for this uses this stuff to negotiate $100 million deals. Was at a family reunion where his youngest sister is a primary caregiver for their ailing father. And he said, she had too much to drink and she started in on me. I've seen her do this before with my older brother and my sister. Now I know it's my turn, because it's never good. He said, I had one goal in mind: make her feel heard, not dispute anything she said. He said, it went on for an hour. An hour. The next day, she sent him an email that said, I attacked you yesterday, and you showed me nothing but love. Thank you for being my big brother. Use this stuff, not just in your business, but on the people in your lives. It'll make your life better. Thanks for spending time with me today.